Hey guys, Constance here. Welcome back to Good Life Farm. So I was out there this morning doing some harvesting, and this is the very first Chinese noodle bean harvest ever. Not just of the year, but ever. First time I've ever grown them, and I'm happy to say we've got Chinese noodle beans, and picked those this morning, as well as another basket full of tomatoes, and probably be making a little more salsa. I've got a whole table full of tomatoes in the kitchen already, so I will be doing some salsa, and then I will also be freezing more for my tomato sauce that I'll be doing a little bit later in the season. And yeah, so it's been a productive week already. Yesterday, my friend Amanda came over. She is the sweet friend who moved here from Alaska, and we made salsa, and it was supposed to be a hot variety, and I used some of those peach rush hot, supposedly, peppers, the one that Mr. Smith tried a while back and was like, yeah, he regretted it. And I used them in the salsa, and I guess I didn't use enough of them because Mr. Smith came home and he tried the salsa, and he's like, it's not hot at all. So I used several of those peppers in the salsa. I removed the seeds out of most of them, but I did leave all of the seeds from one of them in there. But I guess it wasn't enough to make a difference. He said there was zero heat. So he said it tasted good, but it wasn't hot at all. So I think I'll make another batch, and this time I might use some of those little Chinese 5-color hot peppers and see if that turns out to be a hot batch. So far I've done 3 batches of salsa this year, and then I'll attempt to do that hot one and see how it goes. Now, you don't have to be a big salsa eater to make salsa. Salsa can be used for so many things, and it is a great way to preserve not only tomatoes, but peppers and onions and other things out of your garden. And when you can it, and when I can it in half-pint jars so that I don't have a massive quantity that I'm opening up every time I use some. And what is great about this is you can use it in recipes. Even if you're not going to be eating it with chips, it is great for a recipe. You can open up a jar, toss it into a pot of chili. You can put it in stews for some added flavor. I mean, it's tomatoes, it's pepper, it's onion, and some seasonings. And so it's just a great way to use up a lot of produce when you have an abundance of peppers and tomatoes and things like that coming from your garden. So I'm going to finish up my second cup of coffee of the morning, and then I'm going to head back out into the garden because I need to water the big garden. I watered the duck garden already this morning, and it's going to get hot. It's going to get hot again, and we still had no rain. I know, it's like Groundhog Day, and yeah, we need some more water out there. And so the temperature is supposed to be in the 90s today. Heat index is like 104, which is just lovely. It's supposed to be like that all week this week. So I'm going to get out there. I'm going to water the big garden, and then I've got to run a couple quick errands, and I will come back here, and then I want to share something with you about my harvesting tools. And so I'll be back in a little bit. Hey guys, I'm just heading into the kitchen here to share a little something with you. Well, first of all, no more blue swatches all over the place. I had decided I didn't like the blue, and I wanted to go actually whiter than what it was. And so, as you can see, we've got white. I've been working on painting my kitchen. Got a lot more to go, but I'm started on it. So I just want to share a couple of things with you about harvesting and what I do when I'm harvesting out in the garden. And now I'm wondering where I just set everything. One moment. Alright, so when I go out into the garden and I am picking all of the wonderful things that are growing out there, I almost never actually pick anything. Most of the time I'm going to cut the item from the plant, and I do that because in the past I have broken plants by doing that. Even though, like, say the tomato was completely ripe and almost squishy, it was so ripe, I have broken stalks and stems of plants by trying to break or pick off those items. And so when I go out there in the garden, I carry something that I can cut with, whether it is something like this. I actually have two of these. It's got the nice curved blade. This one it's got the nice spring-loaded handle to make it easy for cutting. This is not my favorite one. This is actually my old one. It's a little bit worn out. It kind of sticks. Yeah. I have a new one. I have one I like better, and I have managed to misplace it. I don't know where I put it, and it'll probably show up after garden season is over, because that's just the way it works. But something like this is always in my hand, and this is a good one. This is great for those really thick tomato stems when you've got some I've got some pretty hardy plants out there, and it takes something with a little bit of oomph behind it to cut those stems, and so something like this. But then other times you've got clusters of plants that are really tied together and you can barely even see the stem, let alone get a tool like that in there to cut it. And so in those situations I have something a little bit more like this. This one in particular has this nice narrow pointy little blade, and it is able to get right down in there into those tight spaces and get those stems that I can't reach with the other tool. This one is Corona brand, and I got it at my local Lowe's. I actually have several of these Corona tools, and I really like them because they really seem durable. They've got some strength behind them because, you know, if you're out there weeding in the garden and you are digging hard with hard soil, the last thing you want is tools that are going to bend, and these things seem really sturdy. And like I said, I got them at my local Lowe's. I'm sure you can find them other places. As a matter of fact, the other snipper that I have like this is Corona brand, and I got it at my local farmers co-op. And so you can find that brand in a variety of places if you're interested. Now, that's how I pick the items. And really the only thing I actually pick and don't cut from the plant is beans. Beans are just too easy to remove. You just snap it with your fingers and you go. So I really, other than berries or something like that, that's about the only things I pick by hand. Everything else is cut from the plant. Now, when I'm going around collecting the items, what do I put them in? I have a couple of different things, and I'll show you what I have. So first of all, I have this right here. This is a Joey apron, and it's made for gardening. It's got the little pull straps to tighten up back there, and it's got little pockets that you can stick your tools in like that. It's got this layer on the inside that is like water resistant to keep your clothing dry on the inside. And then it's got these little straps here that hold up the bottom so that as you're going around you can put your stuff inside here, your tomatoes, your beans, your peppers, whatever it is that you're harvesting. And then once you are done collecting everything, you go into the house and you walk up to your counter or your table and you unhook these, and then the bottom opens up and you can just move them out onto your table or your counter surface, wherever it is you're wanting to put them. But here's the thing about that apron. I've only used it a couple of times and I'm disappointed with it. I found myself, I think in theory it is a great idea, but when I was actually out there in the garden and using it to harvest, you know, good bunches of beans and tomatoes and all of that, I was having to walk around the garden and use one hand to do everything with, because my other hand was having to hold the bottom of the apron, because as I was walking around the garden and collecting things and putting them into my apron, I had things falling out onto my feet. So the weight of the beans, the tomatoes, was pulling down on the bottom of the apron, and they were working their way out and falling out the bottom. So I think in theory it's a great apron, it's a great idea of an apron, but it just hasn't lived up to my expectations for it. So what I actually use are baskets, and I have two baskets that I use primarily. This one here is a great harvesting basket. It was handmade. I bought this from an Etsy shop, and I don't remember the name of the shop, but I'll find it and I'll link it down below if you like this and want to get something like this. Like I said, it was handmade, and it's got this nice natural handle, which I thought was pretty cool. And it's divided into two sections, which can be pretty handy if you're going out there and, like, say you are harvesting peppers and you've got two different kinds of peppers that look a whole lot alike, and one is hot and one is not. You want to keep those sorted. So it has the two sections like that, which is handy. And then because it's made out of hardware cloth, you can put your items in here, and then you can spray it with a water hose and clean them off before you go into the house to actually begin using them and everything. And I don't use this a lot this time of year. I think this will come in really handy for the root vegetables, carrots, potatoes, beets, all of that. Things that are really dirty and you want to clean off before you bring in the house. So what I use the most is this basket right here. I have several baskets like this, different sizes, that I've had for years and use quite a bit. I've got this really big one that I use for crocheting, and I can put my afghans and yarn and all that stuff in there that I'm working with, and take it places to keep myself busy when I'm getting the oil changed and all of that. But yes, I have several like this, and I love these baskets because they're really strong. They've got these great wrapped handles, and so they're easy to carry, and they just do the job, and they do it well, and they're pretty, you know. I got this one at my local Earth Fair, which is like a health food type of store. I know they don't have them everywhere. There are a lot of places. But I think I've maybe seen baskets like this in Whole Foods. I think I have. But I know I've seen baskets like this in other places as well. So just keep an eye out if you want something like this. And yeah, so that is what I use and don't use when I'm doing my harvesting. If you have any questions about them, leave them in the comments down below and I'll be sure to answer them. Right now I need to figure out what I'm doing for dinner. I know I'm making Chinese noodle beans, but I don't know what else I'm going to make with that. So I need to figure it out.